Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology, and first daily Mormon history podcast. I'm Rick Bennett. I'm excited to continue our conversation with George Potter. In our next conversation, we're going to talk about Inca temples. Do those resemble ancient Israelite temples? We'll find out more with George Potter. You won't want to miss this conversation. Check it out.
What is the time period for the Incas? When did they start and end or whatever?
No. There are groups, tribal groups in the Andes. Okay. The Incas were centered around Cusco. Okay, before. According to Mendocino, one of the Spanish chroniclers, there were 25 Inca kings. 25 that they record. Go back 25 different reigns. Take a typical reign of 25 years or whatever, and you're back to Book of Mormon times. So the Incas believed, now what we call the Inca Empire, that was only from 1200s to 1400s until Pizarro landed. 200 years. 200 AD. Okay. Right. But these are the Incas who came back to Cusco, retook Cusco. Their forefathers go back 25 different reigns. The people in the modern Inca, would say the modern day Inca period, the current period Incas, all they were trying to do is recreate the golden age of their ancestors from far back. Okay, they were trying to recreate their golden age. They were not the golden age of the actual Incas. So if you go to Cusco, what do you find? Look at the early stonework, pre-Inca stonework. It's fantastic. Then you get the Inca stonework, which is still pretty amazing. You know, they can't put a knife between the rocks, but much cruder. Then you have the Spanish era on top of that. The early Inca, they were just incredible. So all the Incas were doing is trying to recreate their ancient times. So who were the Incas? Who were the early Incas? 4 brothers, right?
Okay.
4 brothers. This is any Peruvian could tell you where the Incas started. There were 4 brothers that came to the land. They were white, okay? The oldest brother was mean and wicked, and the people hated him.
His name was Layman?
They have, well, you have to understand there's 2 different languages that are spoken of by the Incas. They had their private language, which they only spoke to themselves. But the people who they conquered, the people who they worked with, they had what they called a popular language. So you understand, what did King Mosiah have to do? He had to teach his sons how to read the language of their fathers, because they spoke a different language, so they could interpret the books. So the Book of Mormon people had 2 languages too, the one that was in the plates and the one that they used on a daily basis. So the 4 brothers that come here, the youngest brother was beloved. He became their king. He taught them how to live. He taught them how to be clean. He taught them a new religion. He taught them how to make weapons, how to make buildings. All these things he taught. You go to Cusco. Okay, he taught them how to plant, okay? According to them, how to plant corn. So this youngest brother teaches them. If you go to Cusco, corn was introduced in the Cusco Valley in 500 BC, más o menos, 50 years, carbon dated, okay? So that's the younger brother.
But they didn't eat corn in Israel, did they? I mean, corn is a very American food. It's not really a Middle Eastern food, though, is it?
Well, we have adapted the name corn from the Middle East. We've applied it to corn that grows here. I mean, to the native corn. Actually, corn was not domesticated in Mesoamerica. It was domesticated first in Peru. I'm just saying, city of Nephi, Cusco, introduced corn there, 500 BC, by the youngest brother. That it was so bad, before they got to Cusco, before they got to Cusco, these 4 brothers, the youngest brother had to separate himself from the older brother because the older brother was so violent and wicked. So he set up a scheme to tell the older brother, oh, I left the staff, the Nephi, actually called the Nephite staff, back in a cave, which is the sign of sovereignty. The youngest brother was a king. So he told the older brother, according to Inca legend, go back to the cave, get the staff, and please bring it back. I left it there. So, of course, Laman, or the oldest brother, would have loved to have gone back and gotten the staff that shows he's the ruler, right? While he's gone, Nephi takes off. Oh, excuse me, Manco Capac takes back and eventually ends up in Cusco, where they settle. So there's all sorts of archaeological evidence down there. That's in my book. We can't possibly go through it tonight.
What's the name of your book?
Nephi in the Promised Land.
Okay.
And I look at possible site for Cusco, possible site for Zarahemla, possible sites for Bountiful, possible sites for the city of Jared, or the Jaredite cities, or the land northward, the land of desolation. All of them carbon date to that era. All of them are fairly consistent with what you'd think of as a Book of Mormon civilization. So I can't possibly go through all the information, the archaeological information they have. But just think of, for example, and we'll go into the narrow neck of land, all that stuff if you want, but just think for a second. When the Incas got to, when the Pizarro's army got down to where Lima is today, the Rimac Valley, the Incas called it the land of the people of desolation. That's what they actually called it, the land of the people of desolation. Book of Mormon, why was it the land of desolation? Not because it was a desert, but because of what happened to the people there. That's William Sullivan's book here. He's not LDS, he's an archaeologist, mythologist, okay? He's one I'm quoting here on that. Think again about the Jaredites. Okay, they landed in the same area as the Nephites. They're in the same basic area. Archaeologists will tell you the Zarats in Mesopotamia were, and the clay brick that they're using in the first mortar and stuff, that all dates back. These are the Bible scholars and archaeologists. If there ever was a tower, it would have been built around 300 BC, but 3000 BC. That would have been the tower, okay? So let's say then that the Jaredites left 2900 BC, 2800 BC. They come to the Americas. Where's the Jaredite cities? Where's any civilization in the Americas that date back to that period?
I don't care. Let's talk about South America.
Next, what, 1300 BC? At earliest, 1300 BC?
So you're still comparing yourself to Meso too much.
Okay, but if you go to Lima, Peru, get on a tour bus or rent a car and drive up to Corral. Okay, there are 12 pyramids up there, ziggurat-looking pyramids. They date back to 2700 BC. You have a civilization. They have irrigation. They have mathematics. They have engineering. They have religion. They have sailboats. They have all sorts of things that are consistent with Mesopotamia. 2700 BC. The brother Jared was told that your seed will become the greatest civilization on earth. There's a book called 1491 by Charles Mann, describes the Americas before Columbia.
Columbus.
Mm-hmm. Before Columbus. Excuse me. America. Before Columbus. Okay. So, he says that Corral is a parallel civilization to Mesopotamia. They can't understand, archaeologists, how that took place. All of a sudden, you have civilization in two different places in the world popping up at the same time. Mesopotamia, Peru. But Peru became larger than Mesopotamia, larger than Sumer. And Brother Jared was told, your seed will become the greatest nation in the world. And it did. It was the greatest civilization in the world, the largest at that time. 25 different cities all around there and a religious center of 12 different pyramids. You know, but I don't want to compare with anywhere else, but I'm just saying that fits the Book of Mormon narrative. And they believed in a white God, and they also believed in, they had metalwork, and that's where they found the plates.
Because I know that that's been a big thing, you know, and there are proponents of the Book of Mormon that point to South American, North American pyramids or mounds or whatever. Nephi, when he built his temple, he built it like unto Solomon. And so that would not be a pyramid shape, I wouldn't think. It should be more of Israeli. I mean, there was just I don't know if you saw they had a tabernacle, a movable tabernacle in Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, I can't remember, recently. And so when I look at a South American pyramid, I'm like, that looks nothing like the tabernacle of Israel.
I cannot comment about Mesoamerica or North America because I've been told not to.
No, I'm not. But you were talking about pyramids. And I'm just trying to point out that the step pyramids, which do look a lot like Egyptian pyramids, I'll grant that, but they don't look like Israeli architecture. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. What is a temple where you would have a functioning temple? It's a building with rooms in it and curtains in it and things like that. So,
or even the Temple of Solomon, I mean, that wasn't mobile, but it was, I mean, we know what that looked like.
Yeah, it has to be something like a temple. Yeah. Okay, it's not a bunch of a burial mound made out of stone or made out of earth. It's actual a building. It's a temple. Okay. So have you been to the Coricancha
I've not been to South America at all.
Okay, I told you.
Tijuana is as far south as I go.
I won't comment on why you went to Tijuana. I used to go there when I was a student at UC San Diego. And I did go there to go to church, actually, in Tijuana, because I just wanted.
I've been to Australia. I guess that's farther south. But yeah, as far as North America, Tijuana is as far south. I
spent my mission in South America and Peru and Bolivia. So I'd go from San Diego, La Jolla there, where the university is located. I'd go down, go to church in Tijuana just to feel the spirit in Latin and Spanish and the good people there. So getting back to this point about the Coricancha in Cusco. Okay, John Gorman was here last night in my house, and he was talking about the Coricancha. The Coricancha is the temple the main Inca temple in Cusco. He says inside there's windows, there's the rooms and there's windows, and you can look right through those windows, just like the mirrors in the temple. It's a building, has rooms in it. There's altars in it. There's what's called the Manku Kapak, or I believe Nephite shield in there. It looks like the tree of life. It's an actual building with a room in it. And that was a functioning temple. And they had statues, a statue of the white god in pure gold, a man, okay, in a robe with sandals, with a beard. They had just like go to Temple Square, Salt Lake City, you have statues of the Lord there, the visitor center. I mean, it was a functioning building. It was not a burial place at all. There's a guy named Val Evans, who's from Salt Lake. He has a foundation that he has up in the Sacred Valley of the Incas, where for orphans. But he was a missionary in Peru too, and he spent months and months in Peru. And one of the things he does is he goes and he talks to the native priest and tries to understand what their religion, where it came from. So when Christ, or let's say the white god, Viracocha is their white god. It's always been the primary god of the South America. When he appeared to the people there, he came to Lake Titicaca. That's what they believe. And then he went north. Okay. And he traveled healing the people, teaching them to love one another, teach them how to do things. Even taught them how to store food, how to store their food. They should store food. Sounds kind of LDS, doesn't it? Anyway, he comes and he walks from Lake Titicaca. He serves his mission. He goes all the way up to Ecuador. Then he leaves by walking out on the sea. He leaves by walking out on the sea. Every village in Peru is aligned to the course of the direction of that mission of the white god. He's coming up near Cusco, and he's at Racha, this village, and the people come out and they try to attack him. They don't know who he is. He's white, and they're not white. They come out to attack him. So probably Lamanites, let's say. And they throw stones at him and throw spears at him. And so the white god brings down fire from heaven on top of a hill. And the people immediately recognize that he's the Lord. And they bow down and they ask for forgiveness of their sins. All right? At that site, you can still go there today and see the ruins of the biggest building in the Americas. It was a temple, okay, that they had built to Viracocha. And Val Evans has studied there. He's written a book called House of the Lord, and it talks about where they did their washings before they went in, the way they went through the rooms of that building. That was an actual temple-type structure in Peru. Again, by modern Incas, not ancient Incas, but it's their tradition. But Coricancha is ancient, the one in Cusco. And I love the story of that. He continued then, Viracocha, walking through, healing the people. And when he got to Cusco, which I believe is the city of Nephi, where Nephi would have died and been buried, because they mummified their kings. According to the Inca tradition, Viracocha raised from the dead Manco Capac Nephi. If that's true, the way I interpret it, I think it's the most beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. Nephi was such a wonderful person, just amazing, faithful person, prophet, that Jesus Christ gets to the city of Nephi, personally resurrects Nephi or brings him back to life. I just think this. I love that story. But the story of the four brothers, there's pottery down there where you see the white-skinned people and the brown-skinned people, the Quechua versus the Aymaran people. The Incas were fair-skinned people. The Aymaras weren't. I mean, they're not white, but they're fair-skinned, okay? I could show you in my book pottery down there. We have these fair-skinned warriors complete with cloth shields, which are described by Moroni. Okay, General Moroni had them build these mad shields of cloth. They had head coverings. They had armor all the way up them, which is thick cloth. And then you have they're fighting the dark-skinned people who are simply wearing a G-string. They're just wearing a cloth around their loins, totally naked, trying to fight these guys with swords, okay, or wooden swords, or probably wooden swords, and fully with their full armor on. So, I mean, yeah, we can go back and we can say, okay, nowhere have we found a complete model right now of where Nephite civilization or Jaredite civilization would have been. But we have a lot of the attributes found in South America, and it's very impressive. And there's just wonderful stories down there. David, what's his? I can't remember his name right now. He wrote a book called "The Voices from the Dust." It was his dissertation at the University of Texas, okay, and in Austin. And he accumulated all the folk tales of the white gods or whatever in North America, South America, Mesoamerica. And he wrote the book. And then I went and researched all the Spanish reports, histories on my own, but he had done this, but also in other areas. I called up David and I said, David, I'm not going to tell you I do research on the Book of Mormon in the Americas. Where do you think it took place? I hesitated. He said, Peru. The traditions down there are just so beautiful about the white god. He wore a robe. He had sandals. That when the Spanish heard the tales, they thought he was St. Bartholomew. it had to be somebody from the Middle East, the way he's dressed and the way he looks. And I went to the Island of the Sun one time, and I'd never been there. When I was there as a missionary, I'd been to Cusco, Machu Picchu, all these other places, Chan, but I'd never gotten to the Island of the Sun in Lake Titicaca, where the Lord supposedly appeared. And they have a temple there to him, and they have an altar. It's the most beautiful place you've ever seen in the Lake Titicaca, with these mountains in the background, 22,000 feet high. This lake where you can't even see the end of it goes for, 150 miles or something. It's unbelievably beautiful place. And so I land there with my son, and I said, we're here. Let's just find someone who can show us where this temple was. So I just met a man in town, and I said, could you show me where this was? He said, oh, I'd love to. So he takes us up this trail. We come to this door. There's no wall, just a door. And the trail went through this door, and he said, this is one of 3 doors. Okay. And that you had to go through before you got to where the altar was. And I said, you don't like the Incas, do you? Oh, no, we hate the Incas, He's eyes, darker skin and shorter and all this. And he said, those Incas, they were like your son. My son's 6'2", fair skinned. He goes, they were like him. We don't like them. They took away our island because the Incas knew it's the most sacred place. It's where the white god appeared. After Cusco, it was the second most important place to them. Takes us on up. He said there are 3 of these gates you had to go through to get to the altar. We got to what do they call that? What the temple would have been, but there's this kind of like a cliff face. But it's not very high. It's maybe 30 feet high, maybe 150 feet long. It was when the Incas had it, when the Spanish got there, it was completely paved with gold. They had a fabric that went from the top of that cliff face all the way down to the shoreline, made out of vicuña, covering up this holy place. I mean, today that would be worth millions of dollars, but it's just unbelievable. And he says, here's the face of Viracocha, the white god. Here's his crown. Here's his beard. It's just like, whoa. And that's why it was completely covered with gold. And then they have an altar there where, I don't know. I said, if I get married in a temple, that's where I'd get married. Right there. It's the most beautiful place in the world. But the legends are just incredible about the white god. He taught them, when the Spanish got there, the Incas had an 11-year supply of food, clothing, and other essentials. The white god even told them how to preserve them. You can still see where they stored their food. Now, the El Nino effect is very strong there. So it takes years for it to get the crops back, You have rain, then you don't have rain down there in the Andes. So what other religion tells us people to store food? Okay, but anyway, there's a great story that I love to tell. It's in my book. When the Incas would conquer different civilizations, they would take the gods of these pagans, because they practiced Viracocha, the one god. They'd take the pagan gods and they'd put them in the temple in Cusco, in the Coricancha temple. Just like they did and Solomon did. He would take the gods of the people he was conquering and stick them in the temple in Jerusalem. Because then when he controlled their god, they had to behave or he'd destroy their god. Whatever, So it was a ploy that they used to use to control people back in the old days. So the Incas, they conquered this one tribe, and they had these golden dishes that tried to represent the sun. And they said that the sun was their god. And they brought that symbol to the temple in the Coricancha in Cusco. So the Inca, one of the Incas there, one of the last Incas, he decides that this is a cool symbol. I'm going to start worshiping the sun, and I'm going to call myself the son of the sun. Okay? But guess what happens to him? He's at night, and the white god Viracocha appears to him and tell him, because you have become a pagan, and you're worshiping the sun and not me, your son will be the last Inca. There'll never be an Inca after him. And Viracocha's white people will come and they will persecute and do great harm to your people. The Inca is so taken back by this revelation that he's had. He spreads this throughout all the land. He tells all the people, and the people are on eggshells, that their world's going to come to an end. Even though they're the most powerful people that they know, no one could challenge them in their domain. They've got the Inca told him about this revelation he had. So he dies, his son takes over. His son's up in Ecuador, battling some rebel people they're trying to put down. He's there with his son, and he's there with Akukapa.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. So I've been talking too long. Atahualpa. So smallpox hits all of a sudden, because before the Spanish got to Peru, smallpox reached it. The son of this guy who had the revelation, he dies. His son dies, the crown prince. The line is broken. So a half-brother, Atahualpa, and Manco Capac, another brother down in Cusco. Now, the one brother, Atahualpa, he's up in Ecuador. Manco Capac's in Cusco. Each of them want to become the next Inca. So there's a civil war. And Atahualpa, he's coming down on his way to Cusco, and he gets to Cajamarca. And on the way, he's destroying anybody who supports his brother, his half-brother. Just being ruthless. So they get to Cajamarca, and he says to some of his entourage, there is a shrine to the white god up on the hill here. Go up there and take a unspotted sheep or alpaca. Take an alpaca, unspotted, take it up there and sacrifice it to Viracocha, the white god, for giving us good tidings and success and blessings for our campaign against my brother. They go up there, and the priest in the temple there, the shrine, says, I will not do it. The white god is not pleased with what you've been doing. You've been persecuting your people, killing them, doing harm to them. Well, you don't have to. I will not do that. Atahualpa is so mad, he goes up to the shrine, he takes his battle axe, chops off the head of the statue of the white god, form of a man, cuts off the head of the priest, comes down to his tent. That day, a messenger comes up from the coast and tells Atahualpa, white men have landed in our land. White men. When Atahualpa went to Cajamarca to meet Pizarro, he went unarmed with 40,000 men, and the Spanish butchered them because they were unmanned, and they were basically, we call it self-defeated. They knew it was the end of their reign.
Mm-hmm.
So just very interesting. But part of that other revelation, the same revelation that the original grandfather had received, said that after the white people come who are going to destroy you, other white men will come and they will bless your people. As a missionary down there, I kind of thought maybe that had to do something with this.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with George Potter. Our next conversation about South America will be our last, but I am going to have him on closer to Easter, and we're going to talk about the Exodus. But in our next conversation, we're going to talk about Jaredites in South America, but it's only available to newsletter subscribers. So go to gospeltangents.com/newsletter, and I'll send you a secret link to the final part of our conversation with George Potter.
Anyway, I feel that if you look at where is there the most likely a Nephite civilization and a Jaredite civilization in the Americas that's supported by archaeology, supported by mythology, oral traditions. Best look at South America at the moment.
If you'd like to hear the entire interview uncut, subscribe on either Patreon or at gospeltangents.com. For just $5 a month, you can hear the entire audio uninterrupted. On our $10 tier, if you would like to see the whole video, you can see that either on youtube.com/gospeltangents, or I've got a special Facebook group devoted for full videos. So subscribe at gospeltangents.com and sign up for just $10 a month. For $20 a month, if you'd like to get some bonus content, maybe some of the stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor, you can sign up for that. And then if you'd like to talk to me for $100 a month, we'll do a monthly phone call on something like Zoom, and you can ask me anything you want. So thanks again. Also, don't forget about the merch, mugs, t-shirts, hats, things like that. I'm trying to get the ties up there. Hopefully I can get up there. And thanks again for watching Gospel Tangents, and click here for some more videos.